Hi everyone. This is Jamoke from Advancement Project, and I'm here with Thomas, who's going to introduce the Google chat, and then some of the participants from Power U that's going to be participating with us.
Yeah, so welcome everybody. Thanks for bearing with us. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. We're joined by Ruth, and she's from Power U Center for Social Change, and she's going to introduce some of our participants today.
Cool. Thank y'all, everybody. Y'all hear me okay?
We do.
Okay, cool. So thank y'all. My name is Ruth. I'm the lead organizer with the Power Youth Center for Social Change. We have Annie, you could introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Annie Thomas. I'm the youth organizer at the Power Youth Center for Social Change.
And then...
Hey, my name is Jaslyn. I'm from Soul Sisters.
And I'm Joy. I'm also from Soul Sisters.
Cool. Okay, so why don't we just jump into our conversation today, and I just wanted to start off maybe by talking about what your ideas are on what restorative justice is.
I think, Ruth, you can start on that question since you've been working on RJ for such a long time.
Okay, cool. And y'all could feel free to jump in. So we basically had this Google Hangout. Thank y'all, everybody, for joining, and thank you, Thomas and Jamoke for having this with us too. We've been in this conversation of implementing restorative justice in the Miami-Dade County public school system really for the last 8 years, in understanding that the school-to-prison pipeline is real. It's a part of mass incarceration, where students are being funneled into the school-to-prison pipeline because of zero-tolerance policies, and students are getting suspended for really minor infractions, as you'll hear today. And when students get suspended and when people are formed into the school-to-prison pipeline, a lot of trauma happens, right? A lot of students feel hurt, and there's a lot of pain that they go through. And so instead of criminalizing young people, we're calling out for restorative justice. And so restorative justice is really a way to, if there's a harm that's done in the community or in schools, it's a way to shift the culture to, instead of penalizing students more, that you're actually healing and building with them, where it's it can be done through peace circles, it can be done through conferencing, it could be done through peer mediation. But the reality is it's something that we need and that we've been fighting for in Miami-Dade for the last 8 years.
Cool. And does anybody else have ideas on like what the importance of restorative justice really is and what it means for students?
To me, it means to find closure for a lot of the students, for the simple fact that because the restorative justice system is like, instead of just penalizing any student for what they've done or anything, we can actually sit there and get to the root cause of the problem and figure out ways to overcome them. And that basically, to me, decreases a lot of something I would call the domino effect of getting suspended, because once you're just suspended, it's like it gives you time to realize how, although they say that they are for us to get an education, they're really not. And that can damage you mentally, knowing that, okay, I'm here to get a public education and better myself in society, but you guys aren't giving me the chance to because I made a simple mistake. And in my opinion, we all understand that humans tend to make mistakes and we tend to do things that are wrong, but how are we going to understand that what we did is wrong if we aren't really told? Because even though we are in high school, we're still learning, we're still adjusting to what's wrong and what's right, and we depend on the adults to, take us there step by step. I'm not saying to hold our hands, but to, help us understand it for the most part. And I feel like suspension is just like, well, you shouldn't have done it, and that's about it. Like, where can we go from that? That can cause a lot of damage. So I feel like the restorative justice system is going to bring clarity and also a reminder to a lot of students that there is actually people there, like in society, that still cares and actually does want you to get an education.
It would also back up the whole thing about no child left behind.
Right.
Because when you get suspended, you cannot get any of the work that you missed, and you can't make up for those grades, and now you're left behind. But what happened to
It contradicts itself a lot, and it makes us look at society completely different, and who knows where we go from there.
Right. Right. And so, like, in these circles, for example, in restorative justice circles, you really can talk about those issues, have a voice, right? Because a lot of times when you get suspended, it's like you don't even get to tell your side of the story.
Right.
So if you're like in a peace circle and you're talking about, okay, this is what happened, okay, how can we handle it? How can we all be held accountable?
Right.
Then it's a way to actually deal with the root cause, like you said.
Right.
I kind of want to bring this back to the issue of Black girls. Thomas has done a really good job with Power U of getting data that says that in Miami specifically, that in some high schools, for every white girl that's suspended, 7 Black girls are suspended. I kind of want to talk about how restorative justice and the title of our Google Hangout, Black Girls Missing in Action, Black Girls MIA, how does that tie in together?
Annie, you want to share?
Yeah. So Black girls MIA, as in Black girls missing in action, like they're missing from the conversation, like our day-to-day conversation or how we view them. Like obviously, like we acknowledge, as a country, we're starting to acknowledge that there is a problem, like with Black men constantly being targeted, criminalized, and criticized. However, we are not acknowledging the fact that the women go through the same issues and then some. We tend to leave women out of conversation, and like restorative justice for me is a way for women to finally be heard and no longer being missing in action. It's a way for them to have those voices included and feel like they're supported. A lot of times when women say like they're raped or molested or whatever, they won't even talk about it and mention it because they know nothing will be done about it. Where restorative justice is like getting to the root cause, allowing you a space to heal, and also still having something to contribute towards it and make sure like it doesn't happen to you again, or that you have help or support as you go along. And you're not missing an action, you're not missing from the conversation. In fact, you're centered in it.
So another statistic is that, Black girls make up less than a quarter of enrollment in Miami-Dade schools, but they make up more than half of out-of-school suspensions, and they make up a greater proportion of even in-school suspensions. In fact, like they're the only group that has a higher rate than higher percentage representation of in-school and out-of-school suspensions than their enrollment. What do you think leads to those types of differences for Black girls in places like Miami?
So a lot of that work and a lot of the data and statistic, we have to see it as it relates to structural conditions, right? So structural racism, structural patriarchy, structural capitalism, where students are basically pushed out, silenced because of the way that they look. Students are pushed out because of the way that they dress, the way that they talk. Black girls, like are pushed out because of the way that they respond to teachers, because of they might call it like attitude, and students are getting suspended because of attitude, which then in the code of conduct they call it like being defiant. Right. And so when you have situations where a Black girl could get suspended for her attitude or talking back, and a white girl isn't suspended for that, for us it gets to like, okay, so what's the root cause of why that student got suspended? Right? And so the root cause isn't just the attitude that was given, but the root cause is who gave the referral? What's the implicit bias that that teacher has that gave the referral? Like where does that teacher stand on issues of racism, of issues of patriarchy, white supremacy, and capitalism, and how are they manifesting, and how is stereotypes being manifested in a lot of these conditions, in the ways that girls are being pushed out.
Does anybody, do you guys have any like personal stories or stories that you know of girls in Miami-Dade schools that really like kind of illustrate some of that like stereotyping of Black girl behavior and that like targeting of Black girls in Miami schools?
For some reason, I don't know, I haven't seen it that often in my school because I haven't seen that often in my school, in particular to racism.
Yeah.
But I've seen it people getting suspended for dumb reasons because you don't have a uniform shirt, so you're suspended instead of getting a warning or a detention instead, I'll say. But for like racism, because the teachers are black too, so
That
I
doesn't
don't.
really happen.
Yeah, that doesn't really happen that I see.
But I do know that I've had a lot of encounters with situations like that myself because I believe that I have a right to stand up for myself, being that they like to say that we are young adults. So I feel like in high school is when it's an appropriate time for us to practice us being young adults. So it's a couple of times where I felt as if the teacher could have said or done something differently towards the situation between the conversation we had. And if I was to voice my opinion on that situation, I'm penalized because it's like, oh, you have to stay in the child's place and all this extra things and about how my attitude was this and my attitude was that. And it isn't about me having an attitude. It's just the simple fact that I think I have a right to speak about what I feel is wrong or right. But it's just an automatic, no, I'm shutting it down, you're getting a referral and things like that. And I remember in ninth grade, I was in indoor suspension for a week, the first week of school, because I was wearing capris. And due to the fact that I am new to this to high school, to just the school itself, I wasn't familiar with the dress code, but I didn't know what the colors were. And I wore capris, but the fact that they were capris, I was in 311 the whole week, and I didn't have no control over that at all.
Had to lose her whole entire first week of high school experience, getting to meet her teachers for real, and all that because she had to be suspended indoor, away from our classes.
Right. What's 311?
311 is the room that they send all the students to that get in trouble.
What do you guys do on 311?
Sit there and wait to get permission to leave, basically.
And it's freezing cold in there.
Very cold. On purpose. Yeah.
And there's no...
It's like jail. I would say it's jail. I would say that. The only time I remember doing work is when they made us write the rules of the school down until they was ready to let us leave. That's the only work that I know of.
And so for wearing capris, you were in 311 for the whole week, the first week of school?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But it happened because basically in the first week of school, security guards are looking for people that's out of dress code. And they caught me, and basically whoever was out of dress code or whoever they felt was out of dress code had to go to 311, which is, yeah.
And not to mention, a lot of times they'll let certain students slide. And
of course, the basketball players or anybody that's in sports, period, that's giving the school some type of shine. They don't have to worry about what they wear.
And it's mostly the guys that get to leave on free. Because, they're the basketball players.
And the football players, so they get to wear their joggers or whatever the case may be. Nobody says anything to them.
Yeah. We just had a question from someone from online who asked if you can make up work if you went 311.
I know it's been cases where it depends on the teacher, honestly, because some teachers do believe like, okay, you got in trouble, so you're not making up work. You shouldn't have got in trouble. Or there is some teachers that's like, okay, well, I see that you're putting in effort to actually do your work, even though you're suspended or in 311, so I'll give you the work. It varies depending on who the teacher is and the student too, because sometimes the student could be reaching out to get work, but because they get in trouble so much, it's like, what am I giving you work for? You're still going to get suspended or something. It just depends on the situation or the person.
It sounds like what you're saying is that when, like these types of like disciplinary like kind of measures, like suspension, detention, and expulsion, they sort of like, they end up not really like teaching the student anything or really engaging the student. So what does restorative justice do that sort of like counteracts that problem?
Well, for instance, like if there was the restorative justice system around the time I didn't know we could wear capris, it would have the situation would have went like this. I would have came to the school not wearing the proper attire. Someone of administration will pull me aside and be like, okay, I understand that it's your first day here. I'm not sure if you're aware of our dress code, but it's such and such and such. I'll speak to your mom about it as well to let her know, so we have an all like a whole understanding about it. Send you a note home or whatever the case may be, or maybe you can ask why I didn't wear uniform, because a lot of people don't have money for the correct attire. I mean, we can sit down and try to understand why was I out of uniform or any of that matter. We can get to the root cause and we can go from there instead of just sending me to 311.
But their excuse is always, if I do that, if I allow if I allow you to explain, it wouldn't be fair because then I have to let everyone else explain. So they're like, okay, you know what? Let's just make this short and you're suspended.
In the restorative justice system, if that was around, they wouldn't have that excuse. Like, oh, if I let you explain, then I have to let everybody else off. It would be, oh, you have no choice. Everyone has to have the ability, well, the opportunity to explain because there's this restorative justice system.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like having it is mandatory in my eyes. It's needed. It's really needed because I see a lot of progress, a lot of positive things that can come from the restorative justice system.
Like the statistics of graduates would actually go up, I believe, if they would actually have this.
True.
Yeah, and I think we've even seen in places like Oakland where they've been able to show, some improvements in graduation rates and, academic, sort of staying in school as a result of using restorative justice strategies. So, I mean, I guess Ruth, like, I know that Power U's been working on this campaign for some time. What's the buy-in for teachers to think about adopting restorative justice strategies? It seems like they're a key part of this conversation in a larger sense. And I wonder what is the pitch to teachers about why restorative justice is good for them too.
Yeah. You want to? Okay. So, who answer? You want to answer?
No, I was just gonna add one more thing.
Okay. So I think for us, the pitch to teachers, because we work with a lot of teachers, growing number of teachers in Miami-Dade, who, for example, have really large classes, right? So classes are supposed to be like maybe under 20. A lot of the classroom sizes in Miami are like 30, 35 students, and a lot of teachers are dealing with a lot of classroom management issues. And in Miami, what it looks like is that because the class sizes are really high, because testing is a part of it, not to say that these are like excuses to for teachers to give students referrals, right? But these are part of the conditions that basically funnel students out of school. So what we'll say is that they're already in like teachers are already in a stressful environment, and then when a student comes in and they have like a extra issue, or if there's like a problem that arises in the classroom, teachers are very quick to suspend students, right? And so what we've been able to do is really like build with teachers, teach them, train them. We have young people trained on restorative justice to basically go into classrooms and do presentations around what does it look like to have peace circles, right? Like what does it look like to have accountability circles where it's not just about, okay, when something pops off or when something happens, we're going to address it, but that restorative justice is another way to build classroom relationships amongst teachers and students. We have a teacher at North Miami Beach who, Annie, you could probably talk more about it, but she constantly brings in Power U because she has, throughout her day, she sees 165 students the whole day. And so for her, she's like, okay, restorative justice is a way that, one, I can build relationships with my students. I can talk to them about how to get their classwork done. So it could be used as like a real way of learning, a new style of learning where it's not just about teacher being in front of the whiteboard and
But
giving a presentation.
It's not just a new way of learning. It's also like the change of culture
Mhm.
inside the classroom. Like for the teacher that was like going to her classroom is a completely different experience than go to another classroom. Because it feels like the students are more free, like they're able to talk to their teacher and have an honest general conversation, and the students actually feel more free and comfortable to learn. And it not only lessens the load on the students and the teacher, but also administration, because that's less. The specific teacher actually no longer write referrals at all. There's no reason to. Anytime something comes up in the classroom, she could address it herself using restorative justice methods.
Which I think a big part that like plays in that is like EI, emotional intelligence, like being able to have like feel some kind of like feel the other person and what they're going through instead of just reacting in this like in the rules and guidelines. When you're human, you
Yeah.
also have feelings and you know things, so try to connect in that way as well.
Yeah, makes sense. For those who are viewing, if you have questions for the girls or for us, can you tweet with the hashtag BlackGirlsMIA and we'll try to get them answered. So back to the conversation. So I think it's really obvious that there is a problem in Miami-Dade, right? And that problem is both race and gender. When you talk about including Black girls in these discussions, are there pushback? This is for everyone, both the organizers and the students. People understand that it's imperative that we look at this work in an intersectional way.
Jumoke, can you repeat your question?
Yeah, I think the question was, when we talk about Black girls, have you seen pushback from other people who would say, this is about, Black boys are harmed more, or why is there a focus on Black girls? Have you had any pushback, both from teachers or just from the community?
Can I answer that? Yeah, I mean, I think also given like the fact that nationally, like if you look at some of the data around the like risk ratios for suspension for Black girls versus like Black boys, you'll see that like compared to their white counterparts, Black girls actually have a higher probability and a higher risk ratio rather for getting suspended than their white counterparts than Black boys do. So in Miami-Dade, for example, for every white boy, 3.5 Black boys are suspended, while for every white girl, it's somewhere around 6 Black girls are suspended. So I think Jamaica was not to rephrase your question, but I think she was just sort of asking, based on like that kind of information, do people still give you guys pushback?
I think it goes so much more into so many other things too, like just so much more things of why people just getting suspended for no reason.
So I've been having these conversations with teachers and students lately. I've been doing a lot of school presentations, and every time I had the conversation, it's not that it's a pushback, it's a lack of knowledge around it. It's like once we start the conversation and start really thinking about it, I pose it in a way like, what are some things that Black women face on a daily basis, and what are some things that Black men face? And they would list all these things for a Black man, but like 3 or 4 things for a Black woman. And then it's like changing the conversation as, so does women don't face these issues? And it's just a moment of realization that we normalize what women go through so much that we don't pay it any attention. So I haven't really had any pushback. The only thing I had is like awe moments. Like when you really think about it, it makes sense. It's just that it's not our mindset or our concept to think like a Black woman faces more struggle than Black men.
I mean, when we've been doing outreach in the last couple of weeks for the Black Girls Matter Town Hall, I've had a couple of pushbacks, not people being like, just like mean or aggressive or whichever, but they're really coming from wherever they're coming from, right? I had this young man, this older man, I gave him a flyer and I was like, oh, we're having a Black Girls Matter Town Hall, come. And he was like, he took I think Thomas was there with me, but he took the flyer and he was like, what about black girls? and he was like, why are we talking about black girls? Why are we centralizing black girls? Black boys go through the same thing too. And I was like,
That's like we are always talking about what the black boys go through. Now we're talking about what the black girls go through.
right.
You never hear anybody talking really about what black girls go through. Mostly of what the black boys go through because of everything that's going on with Ferguson and what happened to Trayvon Martin. They forget that
there's
that
women
happened to
who,
women
and
too.
exactly, there's actually women who went through the same thing with the police brutality and things like that. Like, we go through the same things, but who do we hear about more? Like, that's what we need everyone to understand. And we're not trying to like deface men at all and just be like, okay, you guys don't matter. We
Yeah,
do, because we all do. But then,
we're just trying to put some, like, we just want the world to see what's going on with the
from
black
both
girls.
sides. That's
Like
all.
you said, lack of intelligence. That's what it is. They're not really noticing or have any real intelligence of what's going on with the black girls.
And we can't be upset with them at all because it's not their fault that they don't know. But I also feel like, well, okay, we noticed that no one knows. This is a great opportunity to inform them, to let them know, so we can all be on the same page.
Right, and a lot of it is like based off of real structural conditions, right? So the structural condition, the structural form, and the way that it operates is through patriarchy, right? So like that's like the intersection that is missed a lot of the time, where we talk about racism, we'll talk about low economic conditions, but patriarchy manifests in a way where black girls and black women are oftentimes singled out, missing action and conversation, and a lot of times silenced, right? And then because of that, it creates a way where even though in Miami-Dade, black girls are 6 times more likely than a white girl to get suspended, that it's like, well, I just got suspended for something stupid. When it's like, wait, no, like you got suspended because of structural racism in your school, where it's like it's not normal to get suspended for not having your uniform.
Which I see is like people get suspended for the dumbest things, and they're just
It's
like,
normal.
I got suspended, and they're not even trying to fight because that's how normal it is. It's like
it just became
right.
something that we all are native to, because it didn't happen just in high school. This been happening since kindergarten. Like, we've been going through this.
Nothing new,
it's nothing new at all. It's nothing new at all. So it gets to the point where it's like your mom like, oh, so why'd you get suspended? I ain't have uniform.
You didn't say nothing? You didn't bring your mom out to the school? You didn't tell them, hey, you shouldn't have got suspended? No, I didn't.
What's the point in doing that? Like,
no, it is a point.
No one thinks that no more. Well, no one ever did, because we didn't know that it was wrong, because it was instilled and programmed even that if they say it's not right, it's not right, and that's there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It's just not right. And now being in a movement like this, where it's like I'm sitting down and actually realizing, wait, this isn't okay. It should never be okay, because we have been victims to it, and I didn't even realize I was a victim until I joined this movement. And it's like now I'm like understanding why it's an importance to have something like this going in Miami-Dade, because I've known a lot of people who's just to the point where it's just like, all right, well, I'm gonna see y'all when 10 days over.
Exactly. Or y'all just come to my house while I'm suspended. You feel me? I'm gonna be home.
You know, I'm not getting no schoolwork. I get to stay home. And it's like, it's okay now.
It's a vacation.
Just okay.
Hey, they're doing the students a favor by letting them stay home and not having to wake up early to get to school.
And that's a lot of times that's how the administrators frame it. Like, okay, Key Friday, you're gonna get extended vacation. That's how it's framed.
It's said like that, and it's like in our mind, it's like, oh, we are getting a vacation. So I mean,
you're not allowed to make up your schoolwork if you're outdoor suspension. If the teacher's nice enough, they can let you do it, but it generally doesn't happen. Exactly. You get 2 Fs for every day you miss. You take about 3 classes a day, 3 to 5 classes a day. 3 to 4 classes a day.
Yeah.
So it's about what, 8 to 10 Fs a day. You're missing 10 days. That's what, about 50 Fs for
and that does not look good when colleges look. Right. So it doesn't look good at all.
By the time you catch back up, you're too far behind.
Yep.
One thing, I got suspended, but why did you? It's no point.
It's just yeah.
So we have another question from Twitter from Binti Q. How can Black boys show up as allies for Black girls?
That's a great question.
It is.
Understanding and supporting their leadership,
Yeah.
but also like understanding and centralizing them in the movement as not only as Black girls but as their equals. Like we can't have solutions without both Black men and both Black women being centralized inside the movement or in the solutions. It's like even historically speaking, like anytime something's happened, women's rights, anything, it's like yeah, women was in the front, but I'm pretty sure they had men behind supporting them. So supporting them in their leadership and understanding and expressing why their voice matters and like mentioning it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Overall equality. Just
Exactly.
that's it.
Just having the women standing up. No, actually having men standing up with us, like that.
And that is a beautiful sight, actually, to see that, where it's just like, well, it's not all about the girls. No, it's not all about the women. It's about all of us. You can stand for me, and I'm gonna stand for you. I just feel like that'll get the point across better. And to be able to do that, I just think it's beautiful. It's just an awesome thing to see.
Yeah. I would say coming up with not just being compassion, right? Because there's a lot of times like Black males or men or white allies will be like, oh, like Black Lives Matter, I feel bad, like, oh, I understand. Not just that, not just being compassionate, but actually taking action with folks, understanding their role and their privilege in the patriarchal system that we're living in, and centralizing, as Annie said, centralizing Black girls and Black women, and elevating their leadership.
And if like you really, really care, you can start your own movement for Black girls. Not just a woman has to be the one to start it. A man can too.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think we I wanted to include another Twitter question because I think it kind of speaks to a little bit to maybe the opportunity that restorative justice may provide to do some of the things I think that you guys have mentioned in terms of bringing a lot of different people to really care about the issue and do something about it. So I wonder if you guys have any experiences you could describe where restorative justice or a teacher's methods in terms of resolving like conflict actually worked well in school and actually like help a Black girl in one of these situations out or help a student out instead of like disciplining them or being punitive about it.
Well, let me actually answer that. Sorry, y'all. So at one point in time we had our RJ club at Booker T. Washington, which is a high school in Overtown, and we were talking and discussing. There was like this fire issue between two girls, and surprisingly enough, the problem didn't start at school. But just basically saying like we got to do the circles and like really talk to them one-on-one, and it's like understanding like there was some stuff going on at home, different things that came into place, like they were already angry and like hurt and like stuff going on before they got to school, which is what led them to the fight. And it's like these girls saying how uplifted they felt by being able to finally like really go through all that and finally sharing their story or telling their side for the first time, but also being held accountable and like moving forward and also learning from it.
Which is like really true because a lot of the young girls, if you talk to them, I'm pretty sure no one has actually got a chance to sit with them and listen to them. Most of the time, they don't have no one to talk to or to express their problems to, and those are some reasons why they get themselves into these altercations, and then they're suspended, and then they're failing their classes, and then they can't graduate. But if we really do have this restorative justice system, it can really help.
So we have one more question, another question from Twitter. Jasmine and Joy, you both talked about how the movement have been really helpful to you. So Tampa SNCC asked, how has the movement changed your life? And I kind of want every person in the room to answer that question.
Can you repeat it, please?
Yeah.
Especially the movement for Black girls.
How has it changed our life, the movement? Well, for me, it has like allowed me to like realize a lot what's going on, and whenever I'm put in a predicament like that to like just get suspended for no reason, I know that I have rights and I can stand up for myself.
I feel that this movement has enlightened me a lot, because if I am to ever encounter something like that, I know that I shouldn't be afraid to speak up, because the movements like these is something that I can be confident, like I'm going to get help. Like, I'm not the only one who feels this way. I shouldn't feel alone at all. There's nothing wrong with me trying to fight for my own education or speak on what's wrong with what's going on with the education system, since they are working for us to help us get better in life and things of that matter. I feel like we should have the right to be able to say what we feel can be better and what we can work on, since we are the ones that's getting affected by this and stuff like that. So being in a movement like this just gives me hope, and also gives me the confidence to tell other people about it, to help other students understand that what's going on isn't okay, because we all have really been fooled to believe that it is okay. So to know that it isn't, it's just giving me the confidence to tell other people and to spread the word and to create a change, not just here but at my school too.
Spread it to like more stuff.
Annie, how's the movement changed your life?
It gave me direction. If it This movement gave me direction. It helped me develop as a leader. It changed my life path for the better. In all honesty, like I don't know where I would have been if I never joined this movement. Like in all honesty, it saved me. It literally saved me. This movement saved me. It gave me direction.
So for me, I used to be a black girl. Now I'm a black woman. I identify as a black woman. I have two black girls. I have two children that I'm raising, and it's a constant reminder that like Black Girls Matter is freedom, right? Black Girls Matter is liberation, and that's what it looks like for me. It looks like when we centralize Black girls and the issues that we go through, whether it's sexual harassment, whether it's molestation, rape, whether it's being funneled into the school to prison pipeline. It gives me liberty to be who I am. But now, as an organizer and activist, it actually gives me the drive to keep fighting, not just for myself, but for my children and for the young people that we're helping to shape and build their leadership.
So, I mean, obviously today, this is a really important space, and maybe a often too rare space to hear about like important Black girl experiences and to talk about them in the larger context in which they come. We know that you all are helping to host a town hall in person a couple of days from now. So I was maybe hoping that you guys could tell us a little bit more about what's going to happen during that space and the importance of these types of spaces generally for the Black Lives Matter movement, but also for discussion to specific issues around Black girls.
Can you repeat the last part of the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think so. The first part was just a little bit more, just to tell us a little bit more about the Black Girls Town Hall that you guys are having in a couple days, and the second part of the question was just to talk a little bit more about like the importance of spaces like that town hall and the school hangout and just having spaces to share these stories and to talk about these issues.
Okay, anyone could add on to this, but so the whole idea of this town hall is to be planned by women, Black women and girls, led and run by Black women and girls. And like having the people who are speaking, like centering their leadership inside of this movement. And it's so important because it's very few places that truly uplift their voices, their leadership, but also like having something there that could come out with concrete solutions and programs and everything that will actually help them and address the issues they face. Like to have women go up there and tell their stories back to back and have them plan it and have that leadership and have that support behind them and then still make concrete changes, I feel like it's the most powerful thing possible because the black women are our future. They struggle the most. They are our queens, but we held them like I feel like we do not truly appreciate them enough for all they do, and to have this space that allows them to finally like be them and like have tell their stories and their testimonies or share their poems or be creative or put yourselves out there in a way that's not usually done is truly unique, and it's just lucky to even experience it.
And unlike, so there's a lot of town halls where we're going to have commissioners, people to listen to stories and different art forms of expression. And unlike other town halls where commissioners come to speak, we're inviting commissioners from the community, people who are directly engaged with different institutions that have some level of power, right? To basically come and listen to these stories, but then also to answer to the question of, we have solutions too. And one of the solutions that we have is restorative justice. So it's not just, for us, it's not just about, okay, this is a great program, but the reality is that it costs money. There's a lot of financial requirements for this. And so if someone's going to support restorative justice, it's not just supporting the philosophy of it, but it's supporting trainings, it's supporting practitioners to come down to train young people, community teachers, principals, all of that. But it's going to be a really good space to also get buy-in for folks who are in question as to like why we need restorative justice, why don't we keep doing things as it goes. And then we'll also have opportunities for commissioners to ask questions, but their role is really going to be listening to young people's stories, young adult stories, and just really getting a sense of what it is that we actually need in our community.
I believe if you come to the town hall, you're gonna actually be able to probably experience how it is to be a black girl and what the struggle is. And actually, I feel like there's just no way that you can come and not actually want to leave and make a change and spread the word and get people out there to start participating in what we're doing.
I think the town hall is basically going to show how serious we are about this as well, to actually show our community that we have been fighting for this for a very long time, and we're still going. We're still going because we've been fighting for the restorative justice system for a while, and I'm pretty sure people are wondering why we didn't give up yet. But I feel like the town hall meeting, to see how that they actually have a lot more youth and things of that matter that's coming from schools that desperately need this actually there, is just going to show our community that there is still hope, and we're going to continue to keep it alive. So y'all should come. Yeah, y'all should come.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to be there. If you're in Miami, you want to come check out Power You's Twitter handle. There'll be information there, or Black Girls MIA. We'll get you the location and the time for the actual physical town hall on the 28th. Thank you so much, everybody who joined and asked questions. This has been really amazing. I think the thing that just stayed with me and what Jasmine and Joy and Ruth and Annie were talking about is that, Black girls are impacted, and we are in this moment now where the door is swung open, and, the most impacted are actually finally speaking, and the leadership that is coming from Jasmine and Joy and, all the young girls, coming up is just so gratifying and fulfilling for me, and so I think for everybody who watch also that this is the same sentiment they feel. So the conversation isn't end now, obviously. So follow the hashtag BlackGirlsMIA, and we'll see you an actual person in Miami for this town hall. Thank you so much, and thank you to Ruth and Annie and Joy and Jasmine. This has been really, really good.
Yeah, thank you guys. We look forward to seeing you in Miami soon.
Looking forward to see you too.
Black girls matter.
They do. Black Girls Matter. Bye, y'all.
Hi.